Yeah, the result, or I don't know, maybe you're already planning to do as much rotation as you did within the game, but how does the result impact the way that you can approach Charlotte, or did it affect it at all?
So, if you're asking me about my substitution patterns, this year I might substitute more because my belief is that this is a very good roster. It's a very deep roster, and I can plug and play. And it's the young guys that are coming up, putting pressure on, us to either sign them or not. We talked about Snyder, we talked about Kalani, we talked about Stewie in preseason. They all had really good camps. You're talking about mid-range guys that are, even, looking over their shoulders a little bit and pressing for consistent minutes. Guys that might think they're starters, they're pressing, they have to look and say, oh my God, I need to play well to get consistent minutes. And then it's the guys that have been here for a long time are definitely looking over their shoulders like going, okay, well, I better perform because there's guys coming up. So this roster is built, I think, to be a little bit more flexible in some of those substitution patterns, and I won't be afraid to use them. How does that relate to tomorrow, and how does that relate to the remainder of the year? It's TBD, because there's always, knock on wood, there's the injury factor, there's other things, there's form, there's lineup choices based on the tactics of the game. But I feel pretty comfortable with what happened down there, the substitution patterns, and I'm excited about the opportunity to do more with the group that we have.
And then just to follow up on that real fast, I mean, how nice does it feel to be able to look down the bench and see an Albert Rusnak, to see Georgie, to see Rothrock, to see these guys who have been starters for you traditionally, and who will probably be starters for you later on, being able to pull them off the bench.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And depending on who plays and who doesn't, we've got even more than that list of names. I mean, it's going to be Kee-hee. It's going to be certain games where I give Stewart a chance to develop. There's going to be, I don't know what Craig said exactly in his press conference today, but previously he said there might be a couple more signings, and we've got good competition on different spots, and I think it's great.
Jada.
You had mentioned Kee-hee. He's here now. So what do you feel about his ramp up and when he might be able to be considered?
I think he came in, and I think he got a little taste, Jada, of our evolution as a club, because things in 2019 were great. We obviously won a championship, but we've kind of tried to increase the standards as we go along, this facility, all of the nice things that we have. And so his initial testing scores aren't quite up to what we want. So he is going to partake in a bunch of training before I put him into a game. How long that is, I can't tell you. It might be next week, it might be 10 days from now, but he's got to come and get acclimated to the team, and he's got to make sure that his fitness numbers are there before I put him on the field.
Albert had spoke a little bit about the importance of having a good start to MLS when you're also competing in Champions Cup. Can you kind of talk a little bit about Charlotte? What's going to be, key with that match, and kind of the importance of getting off to a good start?
Well, whether you asked that question to Albert or somebody else did, and he gave you a good answer, that's exactly right, because we're in a lot of competitions this year, and each one of them are critical. And so getting off to a fast start, and especially, as you well know, getting points from your home games, I should say, are critical, because winning on the road is tough. Now, we've been traditionally a pretty good road team, but I don't want to leave it to chance. And our fixture congestion certainly is going to catch up to us at some point. So I'd like to get some points in the bank as early as I could.
Go to Jess, and then over to Jackson.
Just speaking about Kee-hee, just what's it like having him back on the squad after, some time? And
well, I don't want to sound critical of Kee-hee when I talk to him about his field progress, because inside that locker room, he's always smiling. The guys love him. He's a good pro. He's going to fit in well with this group. So it's just a matter of him, acclimating himself to the different style of play that we have. He's going to be great.
And then thinking about, over the past few seasons, you guys have been known as one of the best defensive teams in MLS. And, just looking back on this preseason and last game, you guys have, scored an abundance of goals in the past month. So what can you say about that potential looking ahead to this season?
We've been a good defensive team. We're going to continue to try and be a good defensive team. The whole focus of preseason was to score more goals, so thank you for saying that question. We have, on paper, scored a lot of goals in preseason, and certainly the first goal away from home, 3 goals. That's great. But it'll be a work in progress. I would caution everybody that, we started off, everybody feels good. There'll be some bumps in the road. And when a little bit of adversity hits, then we'll find the true team.
All right, over to Jackson, then we'll go to the back row.
Brian, you talked about the young guys putting pressure on vets. Danny Leyva is no longer maybe as young as he once was, but what have you seen from Danny this preseason, and also thoughts on what he can give you this season, especially after the Josh trade?
I won't be afraid to put Danny in any game as a sub or as a starter. He's earned that. He's played well during preseason. A lot of times the early preseason games I might have mixed the 4 in midfield. Christian Obed certainly were the starters, and Danny and JP have gelled. That's a good pairing in there. You might see that pairing in some midweek games or games. Danny will get his chance. I put JP in the game just because I needed a more defensive presence down there. I think he had a little more experience there, so he was the choice, but won't be afraid to play Danny.
Right over here. Apologies, I don't know your name.
Hey, Coach Mikael Nascimento with Pittside, Brazil. Ahead of the home opener, what do you know about Charlotte and what stands out to you about that squad?
Well, they're a good team. They came in 5th, I believe, last season. Lost first round of playoffs, but they signed a couple of big players this year. Zaha's a quality player. I mean, he's done a lot of good things in a lot of different clubs, big clubs. They have a very good, big, strong center forward. Tim Ream is a steady mainstay of the national team. Their goalkeeper was goalkeeper of the year, so it's a very well-rounded squad. But, they got to come here and they got to try and play. We've watched their preseason matches, 4-4-2. So we'll see how we match up. They do a couple of things in their attack that are similar to what we do, 3-2 build sometimes. So we'll see. Good team. Well, we'll plan for Zaha, and obviously we'd love to put Kalina under pressure. I mean, we'll try and pepper him with a few shots and see if a few of them can go in.
Follow-ups? Maz, we'll start with you, please. I'm sorry, Felipe first, actually. Gigi, missed him.
Thank you. So, Coach Brian, every preseason is different, but for what you saw during preseason, what player or players you think they're going to have a good season, or a player that you might say this player this season is going to pop?
I think the whole group. I think the whole group, that is a very together, complete group. They enjoy working together. If you put a gun to my head, Felipe, and asked me to name one player, I would probably say Snyder.
And one more, out of a CONCACAF game midweek, you had a full crew of female get in the game. What do you think about
They were fine. She made one mistake, that sequence kind of in the second half when there was like 5 fouls. I didn't like that too much, but they did a great job. We had 0 issues with the refereeing, 0.
So you think that changes the behavior of the player during the game?
No, the other team was pretty physical still.
All right, we'll follow up to Maz first.
Hey, Brian, you mentioned, getting points at home early. It's a full 90-minute game, but how important is the start and then the finish of your club going to be?
Well, we'd like to get a start on the front foot. Obviously, we're at home. How the game ends, that's dependent on the score line and different factors. But look, the guys I put out there to start the game, the guys that come on as substitutes, the expectation there is to entertain our fans, to make sure it's an exciting game, try and score goals, play good defense. We want to try and be a high energy team at home to make sure that the fans can get their money's worth.
Go to Jeremiah next, then Nico.
Just a health update on Reed. He looked like he was doing more today than we.
He's still a ways out.
Okay.
I can't even put a week on it yet.
Nico.
Brian, per sources, there was a reach out from Nicolás Lodeiro prior to signing with Houston, and apparently the team passed on that opportunity. Do you have any thoughts on that sequence of events?
Yeah. Nico's a tremendous player. He was a tremendous player for our club. We actually had a couple of conversations. So the article that was written, not so sure it was as fair, perhaps, or the wording of your article, because we had a conversation. I thought about it long and hard about re-signing him for this particular season. So there was conversations. There was conversations between Craig and myself and Adrian, and with the coaching staff. So it was a choice that was challenging in some ways, but because of roster space, future plans, just the way the team is set up this year, it just didn't happen. We left the door open. Nico and I ended it on a very good note, and I'm hoping the best for him in Houston, except for when he plays against us.